You're about to see something priceless. Legendary British comedian John Cleese just gave modern comedy a vital reality check around political correctness during a conversation with Rob Schneider. I think he provided insight that honestly traverses far above many modern attempts to understand comedy, helped by his illustrious 5-decade-long career all the way from the 1970s until today. So let's get into it.
I do think the left it's coming from a place of, it's an intolerance, but it's dressed up as manners.
Yes, it's certainly intolerant, because what I think I don't understand about them is, do they have a sense of humor?
I think so, but I think it's intellectualized to where they can't find themselves laughing. It has to be okayed, because it could look badly upon them.
I think the idea of comedy having to be okayed, as Rob puts it, comes from an age-old debate in the entire field. Is comedy only supposed to punch up, or can it also sometimes punch down? Remember, John Cleese is someone who's lived through perhaps the most transformative times in all of comedy, a time when it was stifled by the right for challenging political authority, to now when it's stifled by the left for challenging political and social sensitivities. I don't think it's possible to justify one without the other. Just take a look at some class acts of comedy today like Jimmy Carr and Ricky Gervais, and you realize a large part of their appeal is how far they push the line of offense. And also, isn't that part of the risk? Isn't offense the price we pay for free speech in our own societies? That's why someone like John Cleese is forced to ask the question, do they even have a sense of humor? What he's really asking is, do they truly understand what humor actually is? And that's the deeper question. I mean, just take a look at John Cleese's entire career arc and you see both sides. You see incredible bits like the Monty Python sketches that routinely mocked and made fun of authority figures. They ridiculed the often bureaucratic and straight-faced governors, as well as the posh royal class of the time that thought very highly of itself. But on the other side, you've also got skits like Nudge Nudge, where John Cleese arguably punches down on the sexual minorities of the time, but also serves to enlighten and stir the conversation around the subject in a world where people felt uncomfortable even talking about things like that openly. It's in that manner that he, whether he wanted to actually or not, spurred on a conversation that eventually helped forward a more serious social justice movement around said issue.
There's this certain righteousness about it that it has to be, and it is very much a fundamentalist form of thinking. It's a closed system of thought.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you step outside of that, then you're a heretic and you're outside the system. And so I think that they desperately want to be in that ideology, no matter how crazy it gets, no matter how lunacy it gets.
And it starts off with a very good idea.
Yes.
Which is, let's be kind to people. Right?
Well, yes, and as a matter of fact, I mean, who would want to be anti-fascist? I mean, they sure dress it up nicely, don't they? So you don't want to be who was an anti-fascist? I'm anti-fascist. Who's for Hitler? I mean,
I love what Rob Schneider just said there in the beginning. People on the side of the political aisle that constantly want comedy to walk on eggshells live in a closed system of thought. It's like they've carved up a range of acceptable opinions that you're not allowed to go beyond, but that's precisely the point. I'm reminded of an incredible quote by Noam Chomsky that has always stuck with me. Quote, "The smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow very lively debate within that spectrum, even encourage the more critical and dissident views. The role of comedy then is to unapologetically go against the grain and then expand that spectrum of acceptable opinion even if there is pushback and resistance. Comedians live on the edge, take the risk of offending people, and help expand the scope of dialogue for the rest of us. We'd be tearing down those comedians at our own peril. But of course, anyone that still wants to do that needs a reason, right? Well, they weaponize exactly what makes comedians so powerful and necessary in the first place, and then end up using that exact trait against them. And that is what shows a clear lack of understanding and appreciation for what comedy even is.
Look, there's two types of teasing. There's nasty teasing, And then there's affectionate teasing, like you and me. When we see each other, it's a barrage of insults. And it's
Yes.
a kind of compliment, because what I'm saying to you is, you know that I love you, so I can say these terrible things to you, but it's proof that I love you, because I'd never say them to you if I didn't.
Right,
It would be rude.
It
Yes.
would be. And as a matter of fact, it's that kind of affection that says, I trust you, and I
Yes.
trust you that I can be me,
Yes.
and that there's no harm intentions.
That's such a beautiful way to put it. Comedy, even if you look at people like insult comics, which is a genre of its own, actually serves to bring people together. It tells them that no one is above being laughed at. It tells them that their flaws are not the same as them. And most importantly, it tells them the mere fact that the comedian is taking that liberty to offend is because they're part of the larger community. You can laugh at yourself because you're more than the parts that make you up, good or bad. That's where self-acceptance comes from. If people that call for stifling comedy knew that a lot of the social progress we enjoy today was actually brought into conversation by comedians of previous generations, I believe that they would develop a deeper understanding and appreciation for it today.